Hello and welcome to episode 4 of the Wisdom from the Akasha podcast. Apologies for me sounding a little bit congested this week. I am suffering with an end of winter cold, completely expected at this time of the year before spring hits. Now, this week, I really want to talk about Akashic Records readings and Akashic clearing and healing in the Akashic Records because there is a lot of misconception out there about this type of work. And I really just want to put the record straight once and for all. And then this podcast episode will be available for everyone. So when they first come across the Akashic Records, they are able to look into what these sessions are and what they're about and what they're not. First up, we have Akashic Records readings. What are they? Why would somebody get one? Okay. Akashic Records readings are all about learning to see yourself from a soul level perspective, to be able to zoom out and to see what's going on in your life, the relationships, the situations from that bigger picture soul level perspective. From the perspective of the Akashic Records, one lifetime, even if you are here for 100 years, is only a very short amount of time. And you look at it from a bigger picture perspective, you can see certain themes, you can see certain soul contracts that you've had, and you can start to really understand what your soul has experienced and how your soul has chosen to grow and evolve in this incarnation. So an Akashic Records reading is where you come to somebody like myself and you will bring questions. The reason we ask for questions is because your Akashic Records are huge. They are so vast. They are your soul's memory since it left source. So you can imagine how much information is in there. We ask for questions because we want to make sure that you're receiving guidance on the areas of your life in which you specifically want guidance on. Question wise, we suggest asking a question that starts with a how, a what, or a why. When questions do not work, because the Akashic Records exist in the 5th dimension and above. So they are outside the existence of time. There is no time in the Akashic Records. Over on my website, you will find a free ebook with 101 questions that work really well in the Akashic Records. This isn't the only 101 questions that you can ask. I pulled this workbook together because lots of people would reach out to me and say, I would love to have an Akashic reading, but I hear that you need questions and I don't know what to ask. So I have pulled together a free ebook and it has separate sections for different areas of your life. For example, your spiritual practice, your soul contracts, past lifetime questions. It's all in there. Please do feel free to go ahead and visit the website and download that for yourself. Another point to remember when it comes to an Akashic record reading is you aren't looking for instructions. This is why we don't suggest yes and no questions, although there are some circumstances in which yes and no questions will work. But for example, if you are going to ask your Akashic Records guides, should I leave my job? You're not going to receive an answer from them in respect of that because it isn't up to your Akashic Records guides to tell you what to do. And they would never do that because that is infringing upon your free will. That type of a decision to be made is a free will decision. Using that example, a question that you could ask is, what lessons am I currently learning in my current career? What soul contract do I have with my boss? So there are ways of getting guidance around areas such as career, but you've got to always remember that when you're having an Akashic record reading, it is about receiving guidance. It isn't about receiving a list of instructions of how to live your life. I will always say, as a general rule, if you connect into an energy and they tell you what to do, you want to disconnect from that energy immediately. No true guide, whether they're your guide in the Akashic records or whether they're a guide in the astral realm, no true guide will ever tell you what to do. They will give guidance, they will try to help you understand things, but they will absolutely not tell you what to do. With me, a reading is a 50-minute session. And in that 50 minutes, I would always suggest to people to bring 8 to 10 questions. Oftentimes, you're going to find that the answers given in an Akashic Records reading are going to be very long, and oftentimes they will answer more than one question in the answer. A lot of the time, we have certain things going on in our lives that impact on more than one area, so therefore they answer more than one question. 8 to 10 is a good amount to have from a preparation perspective. And the process of you preparing and sitting down and thinking about what questions you want to ask is essentially you saying to your Akashic Records guides, hey, I'm going to go and have an Akashic Records reading. This is the information that I want. So when it comes to you and I getting together on a video call on Zoom, by the time you're asking the questions, the guides already have the information there ready. So I'm able to channel through that information, and a lot comes through in that 50-minute session that can be really useful for you. These sessions take place over a video call on Zoom. I open up your Akashic Records on that call. All I use is your first name. I do not need date of birth or any additional information. You ask the questions, and then I act as the channel to channel the information through. One of the big misconceptions about the Akashic Records is that it is an intuitive reading, and this is not correct. An Akashic Records reading is a form of channeling. The reader is channeling the guidance from the Akashic Records, which are outside of the reader, and they are channeling it through to give to you. In an intuitive reading, the person is using their internal navigation system, their intuition, to pick up information for you. Now, there is nothing wrong with that. It's a different format of work compared to the Akashic Records. Intuitive readings come from inside of the reader, and where they're intuitively connecting to whichever energy they're connecting into. In an Akashic Records reading, the reader is opening up, being the clearest channel that they can be, and then they are receiving the information from outside of themselves and delivering it to you. Your intuition and your intuitive abilities are, of course, connected to the Akasha. And Linda Howe gives the best analogy for this, where she talks about the intuition being a drop in the ocean and the Akasha being the ocean itself. When I teach how to read the Akashic Records to students, when they first get started, what will happen is they will receive information to begin with, utilizing their strongest clair. So if they are claircognizant, if that psychic knowing is their strongest intuitive sense, that is how they're going to receive information to begin with. It is also the case that the more work you do in your own Akashic Records, and obviously if you then choose to work in the Akashic Records with other people, the more work you do, the more your other clair senses will turn on. In respect of what can you ask in an Akashic Records reading, you can ask about absolutely anything. What you cannot do is you cannot go into anybody's Akashic Records without their consent. So, for example, if you are a parent, you cannot go into the Akashic Records of your child. Does this mean you are unable to receive any guidance in respect of your child? Absolutely not. If there is information in your Akashic Records in relation to your child that is going to be helpful for you as a parent, that will absolutely come through. One of the questions that lots of parents ask is, how can I best support my child at this time? Or what does my child need from me at this time to help them through whatever is happening in their lifetime? Same in respect of relationships. You can ask about a relationship, but what you're going to receive is the information that you need to know about that relationship in respect of the question that you are asking. You are not able to go into the Akashic records of the person with whom you are in a relationship with. There is an element of healing in an Akashic records reading. Understanding yourself at that soul level perspective can in itself be very healing. And for some people, that is all that they need. For other people, they want to go deeper with the healing part of the work in the Akashic records. And that deeper part is called Akashic clearing. Akashic clearings are really great for people when they are on their spiritual journey, they have done lots of work on themselves, and they get to a point where they feel a little bit stuck. They feel they still can't move forward and they feel like there's still something holding them back. That's when Akashic clearing can be really effective. Akashic clearing is a form of energy work. You do not need to bring questions for an Akashic clearing. In Akashic clearing, what the individual performing the session is doing is working with what we call in the Akashic records the light grid. Now, the light grid is comprised of 7 energy layers. You are not just this physical body, you have 7 energy bodies, and that comprises you. Most energy healing modalities will only work upon the first 3 energy bodies within the light grid. In Akashic Records clearing, you're able to access all 7 layers of the light grid. This is important because when you go through past life trauma, when you take on certain aspects of the ancestral healing, when you have karmic cords, when you have implants in the astral or the etheric bodies, you need to be able to access the outer layers of the light grid to be able to start moving that through for transmutation. In a clearing session, the individual giving the session is working with your higher self and your guides in the Akashic records, who are the ones who perform the clearing, to essentially find out what areas of energetic stagnation there are, where they come from, and how you can best support yourself through the transmutation process. There is a period of usually 24-48 hours after a clearing session takes place where the stagnant energy that has been pushed from the outer layers moves through for transmutation by the individual. It is very important for that individual to be comfortable feeling a whole range of emotions and to understand that they have to be able to transmute the emotions that come up. If you choose just to not feel that and repress it, then it's just going to go back into your light grid for storage. One misconception I hear a lot about Akashic Records clearing is that by having clearing work done in the Akashic Records, you are essentially erasing your Akashic Records. And this is just not true. You do not erase anything from the Akashic Records. What is happening is you are processing through the energetic stagnation caused by difficult lifetimes, by ancestral trauma that needs to be transmuted. But the information in respect of those past lifetimes, the information stored in your Akashic records is still always available. It does not erase anything. As I said earlier, this work is undertaken by your higher self, by your masters, teachers, and loved ones in agreement. Nothing can be cleared through in an Akashic clearing session that your higher self isn't completely happy for it to be cleared through. A beautiful part of the Akashic clearing process is that as you clear through energetic stagnation, if it is in respect of ancestral issues, is that you do not only change your own light grid, but you change the light grid of your ancestors as well. And because from the Akashic perspective, there is no concept of time, this clears the ancestors that have gone before you, and it also ensures that no energetic stagnation from those events goes into the light grids of the children and future grandchildren and future great grandchildren that you have in this incarnation. It's a really beautiful part of the practice. As I'm sure you can tell from my description, it is quite an intense process. Lots of emotions will come up, and your physical body really does feel this process taking place. It is very important that if you do book yourself in for a clearing session, that you make sure that you have time to rest after the session takes place. My advice is always to treat yourself like you've had the deepest tissue massage of your entire life. Stay hydrated and rest as much as possible. Depending upon the areas that have been worked on will depend upon any additional advice to help you through that post-clearing transmutation period. And I, of course, am around for that post-clearing transmutation period for any questions that you have or anything that comes up to put your mind at ease and help you through that process. All of this work can be done remotely, whether it's an Akashic Records reading or clearing, so we are not restricted by geographic location. Undoubtedly, the most popular session that people book in with me for a one-on-one is what's called a combination session. And the combination session is an Akashic Records reading and an Akashic clearing in the same session. Of course, this is work that you can learn how to do yourself. You do not have to go to somebody like me for these types of sessions. Everybody has the right and the ability to not only learn how to read and access their Akashic records, but also how to undertake this healing and clearing work in their own Akashic records. I do teach people how to do that as well. And if you would like to attend that next class, then please do sign up over on the website. I hope this episode has been useful in helping you to understand the type of work that you can do in the Akashic records. This is only just the beginning of the work that you can do in the Akashic records, but hopefully it has cleared up anything in respect of misinformation that you have heard about the Akashic records. I will, of course, drop everything into the show notes so that you have easy access to take a look at everything that I have talked about.